Hi, it's Angus here today with Vessi Seeds, and we just wanted to take a little chance to come out and talk to you folks about all the different kinds of beans that a home gardener and commercial growers can grow. I'm sure everybody is familiar with the sort of standard yellow and green snap beans. It's really a matter of personal preference as far as the colors go, although there certainly is some regional distinctions. People in the East and in the Maritimes really like yellow beans more than green, but good beans, whether they're green or yellow, taste great. There's not a whole lot of difference as far as the shape and color of the different yellow bean varieties, but in the green beans in particular, the newer varieties we're finding have much better color than the older varieties. This, for example, here is Provider. Well, this is one of our newer varieties, Aldrin, and you can see how much darker and glossier that bean is. The eating quality on them is excellent and they yield a lot. So in particular in the green beans, it really does pay to grow some of these newer varieties. The one advantage of Provider though is that it is a dark-seeded bean. Dark-seeded beans tend to do better in those early plantings in cold soil. So Provider for your very first planting, but after that, planting something like Aldrin or Lewis or Valentino should give you a much nicer colored, better yielding bean. So you can see here with these yellow beans, there's a very large number of beans that are all pretty much ready. And there's very few immature ones and no real blossom. So the big advantage of these bush beans is you get a lot of beans at a short period of time, which is great if you're looking to freeze or can beans for the winter. And it's also great if you're looking to pick beans to sell. You get a lot of beans in a very short period of time. You know, you can reach in and essentially grab these beans by the handful as you're going along and picking, making it much faster to pick. People aren't quite as familiar with these flat potted beans, or what are called Roma beans. So these are a snap bush bean, and the pods are flat. They taste just as good as a round potted bean. They're heavier, a little more productive because the pods are bigger. You can see the yellows have beautiful colors, nice dark yellow. Also of interest is what we call these French horticultural types. This variety is Flambeau, and it's a really nice sort of multi-purposed variety. You can take it earlier, maybe a little earlier than this as a snap bean. And then once it gets a little more mature, you can see as the pod develops some more color, these can be opened up. And the beans inside used as a fresh bean, like for example, like a lima bean. And then as you allow them to mature even further, you can let them mature all the way to make a really nice pink and white dried bean that could be used for any kind of dried bean soup or for baked beans. So a real multi-purpose type variety. Another totally different type of beans are these broad beans or fava beans. They have these really big beans inside, and they always have these kind of interesting looking fuzzy interiors, but they're grown to a full-size bean like this and are used cooked as a fresh bean, or they can be left to dry and used as a dried bean and stored for the winter. One of the main choices that a gardener has about beans is whether they want to grow a pole bean like this or a shorter bush bean. And there's advantages and disadvantages to each. The main advantage to a pole bean is that they produce their beans over a much longer period of time. You can see this plant here up at the top is flowering, while down at the bottom there's lots of beans that are being formed. So a variety like this, which happens to be a runner bean, but there are other types of pole beans, as long as you're keeping those beans picked, they're going to continue to flower and produce more beans. So you get beans over a period of several weeks to a month, which is a big advantage for a home gardener that wants to have some beans for supper today, another picking a couple of days later, as opposed to having a lot of beans all at once. If you're someone who wants to grow beans to freeze and store for the winter, so you want to go out and get a lot at once, then a bush bean is a good fit. Or if you're looking to sell beans and you want to pick a lot to sell at a given time, then bush beans are a better fit, but you have to have more plantings to ensure a continuous harvest. While for a home gardener, having a smaller amount of beans over a longer period of time is probably a better fit. The one thing with pole beans is that you do have to put up some kind of a support. You can see here we've just used some 2x2s nailed together with some bird netting, and we find that works really well. We have 2 rows that are attached to each other, but you could do a single row or Other things that people commonly will do is they'll put up long poles in a teepee and plant beans around the base of it. So they do need some kind of support, which is a little extra work, but you do get your beans over a much longer period of time than with bush beans. Pole beans, just like the bush beans, come in a wide range of shapes and colors, probably actually a wider range of shapes and colors than the bush beans. You can see here's your sort of more traditional green bean. This one is Kentucky blue, and compare it to a new variety that's like Seychelles. Again, has a darker color, glossier, so definitely been some improvements in pole bean color as well. But there's also really nice yellow pole beans. This variety here, Monte Gusto, is our yellow bean, and you can see the length of these beans when compared to a bush bean. You know, the beans are almost half again as long, and the quality on these is really excellent. We have a really nice purple potted variety called Carmenat. These purple varieties are very interesting. They are dark purple in the raw stage, but when you cook them, they blanch to a really nice bright green. The flavor on them is excellent. And there's also a couple of odds and ends. This is a variety here called Rattlesnake, which has a nice speckled appearance. And then also in pole beans, there are what people will call scarlet runner beans or runner beans. They're closely related to all the other beans, but are a little bit different. The pods tend to be flatter. A lot of people actually grow them as much for their ornamental red flowers as for the beans, but the beans themselves are delicious.